Well, welcome. I am Louis Rickey, Executive Director of the Indiana Arts Commission. I am an older white male, and I'm sitting in my home office with a lovely contemporary quilt over one shoulder, and I welcome you today to this webinar. Some of you might tuning in might be considering taking programming and business back in person. Today, we'll learn how to decipher what's best for your community and audience and what steps to take to make sure when you do come back to in-person programming, you're creating a safe environment for both yourself and for your audience. Joining us today is Sam Bartlett, artist, and also Bridget, who is our communications manager, will be helping us out. Bridget and Sam, please introduce yourself and give an audio description of your appearance for anyone participating with low vision or blindness.
Thanks, Louis. Hi, I'm Bridget Eckert, and I'm the Director of Communications at the Indiana Arts Commission. I am a white woman with blonde shoulder-length hair, and I have a leopard print dress on today. We are broadcasting to the world live from Facebook. This webinar is being recorded, so it will be posted on YouTube later and on our website under www.in.gov/arts under training. We have plenty of time to answer all of your questions today, and if you submitted one when you registered for this webinar, then we've got it ready. If you're watching live on Facebook, you can add your comments below and we will get to those questions as well. All right, let's kick it off. I'll go ahead and have Sam introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sam Bartlett. I am a 59-year-old, well, actually 58, about to be 59-year-old white male with short, curly brown hair, and sitting in the office where I teach and do my artwork. I'm from Bloomington, Indiana.
Great. Thank you so much, Sam. So first things first, it seems like to me it would be really difficult to decide when it's right to resume in-person programming. I know it's something that we've talked about in the office. In fact, we just came back here a few weeks ago. What was that decision like for you? And I guess first of all, could you tell us a little bit more about your project that you're doing in Brown County State Park?
So I'm doing an Arts in the Parks residency 2 weekends in a row. I'm originally the description of my program was to do a participatory drawing program, making what is called a cranky show. A cranky show is kind of like paper television and analog television, where you draw on a 60-foot piece of paper, draw a story, and then you crank it between two dowels and just sort of have it scroll in front of an audience and tells a story. So I've done this. This is the fourth one I've done in a state park through Arts in the Parks. And what I've done in the past is I've done heavy-duty participation with people who are at the park just enjoying themselves, and I rope them in, talk about the history of the park, for the storytelling aspect of the cranky, and then I get people to participate in drawing the cranky with me. I sort of outline it ahead of time and give them a project and give groups of people part of the drawing to do. Now it's of course screwed up completely this year because of COVID-19. So sensing this, I immediately pivoted early on and said, I have to change the subject. I have to change how I'm going to do this. I realized this a long time ago, immediately started talking to my liaison at the park, Patrick Halter, and I said, I'm not going to have people draw with me. This is going to have to be outside. I'm going to have to, we're just going to have to rethink this completely. At any rate, I can talk more about it later, but if that's probably enough now this second. But
Thanks so much, Sam. And actually, we have our second panelist that just joined us. So I'd like to take a moment to introduce her. Her name is Lauren Curry, and Lauren is from Indianapolis Movement Arts. Lauren, would you like to introduce yourself and give a visual description for those who might have low vision?
Yes, a visual description of myself.
Yes.
Okay, I am a Black woman with a mohawk, and I am, hold on, sip. I am late and I'm looking a mess, but I am the executive director of Indianapolis Movement Arts Collective, which is an arts education organization, programming classes. So we have 3 pillars, I like to say. We program classes for adults. We bring artists from out of town, and we try to foster creation of new work by local artists.
Great. Thanks so much. So before you hopped on, I was just asking Sam to introduce himself and all the cool stuff he's doing down in Brown County with his Cranky show. And so let's go ahead and dive into what it's like to make the decision to come back to in person, right? So Sam had talked about how he immediately thought, you know what, I have to pivot this and make it right for the moment. And Sam, I'll start with you for a second. So what kind of things did you consider when you thought, you know what, okay, it's time to come back, it feels safe? What indicators did you look for from your community, your audience, to make that decision?
Well, I was just looking at, sort of the daily data about what's safe and what's not. I mean, I'm 59 years old and I have a bunch of friends who are in their 80s and some of my students, and I was terrified of, well, I'm kind of scared of getting it myself, but also of passing it on. I have 3 kids in school. I was just thinking what's going to be safe, and so it seemed like, the mask thing was so huge. Once my wife's a hairdresser, and she read a study early on. You probably heard this, that a woman who was positive had a mask, and she didn't pass it on to any of her clients. And I thought, oh man, so the mask, if we wear masks, we can really do just about anything. But I realized I can't draw with people, so I just need a space that I can be socially distant to do this. And so I need to be outside. So I just talked. First I thought I'm going to have to buy a tent or something, and then I found out there was a shelter building at the park where the residency was, and I visited there, and I realized, oh, this is fine. We can be 8 feet apart, and I can turn it into more of a storytelling and performance event. Now I immediately think about dance. That's really hard to do dance, indoor space.
Yeah, it sucks. But I realized, I remember your work from, you did like a group project at the last homecoming conference, right?
Yeah.
I thought that was such inspired. I had never seen anything like that before. And it's such an innovative way to share what you do, to share your practice. Like, I'm so glad I'm getting to meet you. This is a little starstruck.
Oh, well, likewise. It sounds like what you're doing is revolutionary.
Well, I mean, yeah, in terms of the dance world, I mean, Zoom is, I don't know. I detest it. I don't know how anybody else feels. I already was not a computer person. And now that everything has moved online, it's like the most dystopic Skynet type situation I can possibly imagine. But my friend he brought up a very good point. He's like, this time is not going to be erased. And just because you don't like the computer doesn't mean that there aren't still people out there who want and need to work on their craft. So you have to show up for those people, even though it's not in the format that you would desire. And I was like, yes, I'm going to put on my big boy pants and get out there for people who need it. So yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And so a few weeks ago, Indie Movement actually opened its doors again, right, Lauren?
That's
How
correct.
has that been going?
It's been going, it's been going well in terms of, we have had people come back. We were already, to be honest, a pretty small organization to begin with. And now we are, our class capacity is capped at 8, which, for some classes to get 8 would be great. But for some classes, we were seeing like 15 to 20 people. So that has sucked. But the one thing that we have decided to beef up, of course, is to be more aggressive and systematic about our posting. So, if we can't get you in the studio, we're going to not just offer classes online, but offer inspiration online. So, and I'll just go ahead and announce, it's not a big deal, but we are rolling out a micro fellowship in which we'll be giving local artists a $200 stipend to produce video content for us twice a week. So, and the content will be around creativity, it'll be around craftsmanship, and not just staying in shape and moving your body, but keeping your mind open and inspired, even in times where sort of we're keeping a lid on everything.
That's so great.
I'm excited about it. I'm excited.
It's something, and it's motivating, and it'll make people be creative because everybody wants to get that $200,
Yes, exactly.
It's brilliant.
That'll be a great motivator for sure. I think that sounds like a great idea. I am curious too. A lot of people had asked about marketing, how you let people know that you were either, Lauren, in your case, opening back up, or Sam deciding to move forward with your project and having it be in person. I noticed you both have done some video stuff, some fun, like, hey, come on in, it's safe. This is what we're doing. Can you talk a little bit more about how you've gotten the word out to folks that you're opening back up, and how you've let them know too what the expectation is if they're going to come and engage with your artists, with you, that kind of thing, to make sure everyone's safe?
Lauren, do you want to hit it first?
Sure. I guess, I don't have a marketing background, but I guess what I would say is don't let these new circumstances make your practicality fly out the window, right? If you have a website, you've got to update it with all your new policies. If Facebook is your big connector, or if Instagram is your big connector, just making sure that whatever communications you're doing fit within the parameters of those platforms. And I would say that people are a little overwhelmed with text at the moment. Any video infographics that you can create to show rather than tell your audience what you are doing, and more importantly, what they need to do to maintain the safety as much as we can. So yeah, it's just like everyone, I would encourage everyone to just take a deep breath, be firm, and be clear. And that's all that any of us can do.
Wow, that was so well said. That was really great. I've just it's all social media all the time. I mean, there's no other way to get it out, every time I have a Facebook page for my event, but I also am just reminding people all the time who I might think, who might be interested, and I'm messaging them, I'm heckling people and just saying, come on out, tell people to come out, and just keep it up. I've been doing it for a while. I can't think of anything more powerful than that. And like what you said, Lauren, making a video, showing them something that's interesting, catching people's attention, making it seem relevant. I mean, print is probably the worst thing, and the best thing is the video and something funny and short and engaging.
Yes, brevity is also, that's the key as well. Yeah.
Yeah, you think you got to make some long thing, but really you just need to make something that makes people go, whoa.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's exactly right.
All right, I stood still too long in my office and the lights went out. So my apologies for that. We do have a question coming in from Facebook, and they're curious about, specifically, they have an indoor space that they're reopening. It's a theater with a live audience, live musicians performing together. I'm not sure exactly what experience you guys have in that space, but certainly, Lauren, you would have experience in what it's like having performers work together, and rehearsing in the same space. What has that been like with the dancers that you work with?
So this person, the question is about holding up an in-person performance.
Yes.
Okay.
Making sure that both the audience and the performers are being safe.
Well, I would say, in terms of the audience, again, visuals are key. So taping off rather than saying, and I'm sure that the person who asked the question is doing this, but tape off those seats so people can see. Arrows on the floor so people know what path they're supposed to take to keep the congestion down. And then in terms of the performers, I think, and Brian Fonseca, I would take a page from him. I think that his actors were rehearsing socially distanced. I don't think they were wearing masks on stage, which means that, of course, if your house is quite small, you want to empty out that first row entirely if possible. And then just to say, our blocking is socially distanced. Our rehearsals were socially distanced. We're not using masks or face shields because we're hoping that the social distance will stand in for that. And then just maybe a note or a placard as people are walking in to say, if any of our actors show symptoms, we shut this whole thing down. People just want to know that you're thinking about it. You don't have to be so neurotic in terms of your rules and what you're doing, as long as people visually see that you're taking care of them and that you're taking care of artists. That's all you need to do. And probably you're already doing it.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, Lauren, you hit the nail on the head. It's just, being courteous to each other and thinking specifically about Fonseca Theater. I know they were quick to let folks know too when an actor was showing symptoms too. So I think it's just being as open and honest with your audience and with the actors as well, I think is super, super key. So thank you so much for answering that question, Lauren. So Sam, you're getting ready to go back. Like, I feel like I've beat this horse to death, but you're getting ready to go back for the first time for your in-person performance at Brown County State Park. Thankfully, the park, as we know, people have been flooding to the state parks. They're open areas, great for social distancing, great place to take your family. I'm curious what you've been doing to prepare yourself and your space for that. Certainly masks. Are you thinking about hand sanitizer? What kinds of safety precautions are you taking as you're gearing up for this weekend?
Well, I was just there today and I was thinking, do I have to bring chairs? Do I have to get chairs from the park? They only have picnic tables for people to sit on. In terms of the performance spaces, I found two alternatives. I kind of need to see who's going to show up, but I have there's an amphitheater there where I could perform. I don't think we need to have hand sanitizers. I was thinking of I'd make these cranky shows where we draw on a piece of paper and scroll it in front of an audience, and I was thinking of starting every show with a short cranky about the origin of the mask. I was going to because one thing that I'm terrified of, to be perfectly honest, is people just saying, I'm not going to wear a mask. They're still out there. And so I was going to make a sort of funny thing about the importance of the mask, but have it be kind of dead serious too. And this is straight from my training from Bread and Puppet Theater, which would take a topic that is incredibly serious and start out with it sort of light and fluffy, and then zero in with dead seriousness toward the end, kind of almost apocalyptically, and that's sort of how I feel about it. So I'm going to be really careful with boundaries. I never want to be light about it, really. And so I right now there's an open air. I don't know how the weather will be. I think it's going to be dry. There's an open air pavilion, no walls. There are fans inside. It's kind of ideal. It's an ideal space. I'm gonna be, people have to wear masks. I'm gonna make a sign and I'm gonna show a cranky, but I'm gonna have it be really light. I don't think being heavy helps anybody. And people are on vacation, they're at the park, they want it to be fun. I'm gonna have music, and then I'm gonna just have a little secret, public service announcement, cranky show before I show my other cranky shows, and keep it light, and say you're included in on this, but I want you to be careful with me and with yourselves. So I don't know if that answered your question or not, but
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious too what it's like working with certainly the state park is part of the state system. So their rules go along with that stage 4.5 that we're in, right? No gatherings of more than 250 right now, masks
right.
required. And like you said, hopefully people adhere to the mask requirement, but you never know.
I
I'm
know.
curious, what it's been like though, Sam, working and programming in a space that isn't your own.
Yeah.
Are there any tips that you would give to artists or organizations that are working with venues that they don't own themselves, and what questions to ask the venue?
I think one thing, and Lauren said this basically, to make it really clear where people are going to be. Like, don't think that they're going to naturally know where to go. I mean, this is going to be more of a performance and not participation other than talking. And so I just, as Lauren said that, I immediately was thinking like, I have to bring a lot of masking tape. I mean, I'm going to tape off the area where they can be and where they can't be, make it so obvious, and then never back down on your own boundaries for social distancing, and not have it. It's not funny, and just to be totally serious about it. I feel comfortable in the park. I feel comfortable just saying what I need, and people should know. And I mean, to say it's a state law, you know, and it's also the policy of the park. And I'm not just making this up, and people should know. I mean, but they don't. You can't assume anything these days, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. Lauren, I'm curious, does Indie Movement work with external venues? How is that process like for you in your own space?
We have worked with external venues in the past. We are not a performing group. However, a couple of us are going to be going into hopefully the Tube Factory in a couple weeks to do something. And the Tube Factory, I don't know, Big Cars space over in Garfield Park, it's kind of tight. So yeah, I would say I'm kind of a fly by the seat of my pants person, but this time that we're in is not really conducive to that. So I'm gonna need to, like Sam said, I gotta show up early. I gotta bring my masking tape, and I've gotta bring my stand up for myself, like, esprit, because I also am an accommodating person. So if people are like, well, we just feel like, our venue is beep boop bop. No. I don't care what you feel. If you want me to be here, then this is what I need. And if you don't want me to be here, then that's fine. I came in the door and I'll go out the same door. So, but I don't think it needs to be combative like that. I think most people that we would be working with understand that different people have different comfort levels, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Well said.
Before we move on to any viewer questions, if you're on Facebook, please feel free to go ahead and keep dropping those in the comment section. Is there anything that you wish I would have asked you, or that you think folks need to know before they invite people either back into their own space, into a different space?
Boy, be outside. Remind people to wear masks. Don't get close to people. Be really clear about your boundaries, and don't stop. I teach at home. I teach music students in my backyard, and I taught one man who had COVID-19, and he was sick for 6 weeks, and he was 6 feet away from me, and I was contact traced. I had to be quarantined for 2 weeks. I mean, I didn't know. I mean, you just got to be so careful, and you can't really let up. at this point. It doesn't seem real. The problem with COVID-19 is it's like, I'm not sick. I don't feel anything. People are getting it. They don't feel anything. And then other people get it and they die. And so it's terrifying, and you might be a carrier. And yet you have no reason to feel anything. It doesn't seem real. It seems like if you don't know anybody you can read the news. If you don't know anybody who's had it, it does not seem real.
I think that's exactly right. And not to bum anybody out, but the reason I was late, well, the sort of distal reason I was late is because I had a death in the family of COVID, and I lost track of my days and forgot that this was today. And that obviously that is the realist. That's the realist, and of course she had underlying conditions and all of this, but it is absolutely, if people are doubting it, if people are thinking like, and I felt the same way when it first started. I was like, well, I don't see anybody who's sick, so what? And I've had, not because of the death, but a 180 about that, because even if you don't care if you get it, even if you don't care about your own health, at least care about somebody else, at least care about, and being in the arts, we're around elderly people a lot because that's a lot of who participates. So, at least care about somebody else. And I would add two other things. As things are moving online, and I meant to do a little bit more research about this, but a few months ago, I heard that there were some larger institutions like the Children's Museum, maybe Newfields, places like that, doing donor-only events to keep things small. And it really terrifies me because the arts already has an elitism problem. And I see us as a field at a crossroads where we could further entrench ourselves into our ivory tower, or we could use this opportunity to remake ourselves into a more equitable, a more accessible part of everybody's life. That's the direction that I'm interested in going. And that's, I would hope, we're all artists, right? We got into the arts not to like make money and cash out, but to uplift the human spirit, as corny as that sounds. So why make it just for rich people? Why make it only for people who have a smartphone or the internet? Like, let's be conscious and conscientious about maintaining access for people who are working class, people who don't necessarily have the internet, and who definitely are not donors. I think that's very important. And my last question is, I want to know, is that rhinoceros behind you made of lettuce?
Lettuce?
It looks like a head of lettuce from where I'm sitting.
Oh, cool. No, it's a poster my sister gave me when I was really little, and I just found it and put it up on the wall.
Oh, I think it's so
paper.
I think it's so beautiful. But anyway,
I love it.
Yeah, and I'm if you weren't already going to, Sam, I would love for you to tell the details of your upcoming performance, because I would like to be there to support. And that's the other thing, is we all have to, as a field, we got to get together, because, not this year, but next year, that's when the budget is going to get squeezed. So we have to be better at advocating for ourselves, and we can't do it in our own pockets. Like, there's going to be less for us all. So we've got to get together and advocate. So I'm going to start by going to Sam's show.
Well, it's going to be at Brown County. It'll be the next Brown County State Park, the next two weekends, and from 1 until 4. I'm going to do these. So I'm going to break up. The schedule every hour. I'm going to start with some cranky shows. One about masks. I'm going to make that today. And I'm going to make it light and really intense. And then I'll do a few cranky shows, play some music, and then I'm going to start drawing the Brown County Cranky Show, which is just a show about Brown County State Park, sort of celebrating it. I'm not sure of my angle exactly. I've been doing a bunch of research, I want to listen to people's stories about what meant something to them and put their stories into the Cranky Show. So that'll be the participation, because I don't want to have it just be my ideas. I mean, I want to be influenced by what other people say. So on the hour, it'll be that kind of schedule. It'll be like 20 minutes of performance, and then we'll do some actual drawing of the Cranky Show, and then repeat every hour. And there'll be a performance Saturday night of just music and show cranky shows all the time. It'll be fun. It'll be light. And Lauren, similarly, I totally want to visit your indie movement. I'm completely fascinated by that. Everything you said, knowing nothing. Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah, come take a belly dance class.
I have kids who would love that.
Yeah, and anyone that's on this call, I would say, let's support each other. Let's go to each other's things so we can learn more about who's out there and what they do. And collaboration, who knows if movement can be a part of a Cranky Show, or if we would, like live making of art seems to be what you do, and that's amazing to watch. I think people are fascinated by that. Just getting together more and supporting each other, I think is going to be important, especially in the years ahead.
Yes, absolutely, what you just said. And I'm already thinking, it's like, wow, I do too much stuff. We should do things more out in public all the time. It should be just a regular part of life. And it's not very hard for me to dance. Is more intense to do it randomly in public than people think it's like a video event. I mean, and not just part of life being good. But I'm realizing now I can play music. I can be out and about. I can show a Cranky Show anywhere where there's not wind. And it's very easy to just be out and to do stuff. And that's inspiring what you're saying. It's totally, utterly true.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, you guys, for that. I think you guys hit the nail on the head again. Collaborating with each other, showing up for each other. I think that is a really great way too. If you're considering going back in person, go visit a nearby theater or a dance studio or Cranky Show and see how they're doing it. What tips can you bring back to your own space, to your own practice? And what could you see that maybe you thought, I didn't really like how they did that, but I could do it this way. I think it's great to learn from one another and talk to one another about that kind of thing. We've had a few questions come up in registration about turning programming online. And I know both of you have talked about, hey, use what you already have, use your website, use Facebook, use Instagram if that works for you. So if it's not something you want to go into, that's okay. We are having another webinar tomorrow about switching to online programming and generating revenue. But I am curious if either of you would like to weigh in on how you are still engaging folks online. Lauren, I know you said that you're about to launch this new $200 incentive for artists to contribute content to indie movement. I'm curious how you're going to get the word out about that, and how you plan on engaging your audience.
So the thing about the micro fellowship that I like is that it itself is it serves two purposes. One is the more lofty artistic goal of inspiring people to create, to think more intentionally about their craft. But the second goal for the organization is that we select the artist, and then we require them to post not only to our platforms, but to their own. So that now we are adding a whole other circle of people that we might not have touched. And we're not only going to select artists that we have worked with closely. We're going, obviously we're going to start with movement artists, but we may break out into other fields. And I think we should. We sort of, as an organization, value interdisciplinary exploration. So I would say that's something is, I would say two things for people who are taking their stuff online or wanting to, you know, I would say invest if you have the money, or if you, for instance, if you've been applying to the Arts Commission and the Arts Council, both have grants that are, the Arts Council grant is non-competitive. The Arts Commission one, I don't know as much about it, but if you have gotten money or are planning on it, and you should, use that money to invest in some good technology, some good, like for instance, Kate Wallach is a choreographer out of Seattle who runs Dance Church, which used to be an in-person dance fitness class, but now she took it online. And I think part of the reason that it's so successful is that it just looks slick, it looks nice, it never is glitchy. She took her platform onto Vimeo, which is not as widely used, say as Zoom, and it is more expensive, but the product is reliable and it looks good and it looks professional. So I would say if you're able to, and we don't have a lot of money, but we have decided to invest in the technology to deliver a good product. And there's many examples of people who are delivering a nice product to their audience, and they had to put some money down, but sometimes you really do have to spend money to make money. And then the other thing is just to, as we're being more active on our social media channels, to bring in people that you might not hit, bring them in and say, can you be a spokesperson for us? Because our audience we don't have a lot of Black people, say, in our audience. So reach out, make a connection with Ibada Dance, with Phoenix Rising Dance, and say, can you deliver our content, or can you share our content? Can we have a formal partnership where we both increase the number of people seeing our posts? So those are the two things that I would say.
Wow, that was good.
I mean, and of course, none of it might work, but at least there are things that you can set your mind to and do. And then if it doesn't work, then we all have to go back to the drawing board. But yeah.
It's true about investment. I was thinking about that. In our own home, we've had the same internet speed forever and all these people on it, and we bumped it up. It seemed awful to spend more money, but we did it, and it was really like the smartest thing ever to have a faster internet. It makes, there are all these musicians. I'm a musician as well, and all these musicians are talking about getting good microphones and all these great setups, but they have bad internet speed, and so nothing actually gets any better. And I've been on all these forums on technology and just making your home technology better, and internet speed is just the biggie. I mean, of course you have to spend more per month, which is such a bummer, but man, was that a good investment. I mean, I think it was really like, it reduced the frustration of using technology at home by a great degree. I so agree about investing in technology. I mean, I've been wanting to I work from a laptop or from an iPad, and I've been thinking about getting a big screen. We don't have a television, but just getting a big monitor to do Zoom lessons on, and that just seems like paradise to have a better setup. And my setup is not that great right now. I have like a light shining on me. It's just like a crappy clamp light. But I do have a fast internet speed, and so it's amazing. And my laptop is not really old, and so I feel like, wow, I'm lucky. But the idea of having a big monitor to work from seems really good. And you're so right, Lauren, about investing, whatever you can to make your experience better. I'm going to check out a dance church in Seattle. I don't know about them, but that sounds amazing, and it sounds like they're really doing some things right.
Yeah, I mean, not to reveal too many trade secrets, but we used to teach dance church, and so when we saw her move things online, we were like, oh, because it's very much an in-person. It's about being close to people. It's about being sweaty, and we were like, there's no way that woman is making money hand over fist. I mean,
Yeah.
her reach is so broad, and so many people they just donate whatever they can, but it's like, 10,000 people donating if everyone donates $1, and that's once a week. You know what I'm saying? So there is, and now that's not going to be everybody's story because she has put the work into making her reach so broad, but I think that there is a lesson to be learned about if you deliver a good product at this point in time, people will pay for it or they'll donate.
That's so true. I have a friend who does it every Tuesday night. She's a pianist, and she has people send her music, and she accompanies it, and it's this kind of show. And she created it out of nothing, and she's recently divorced and moving out of her home, but she created this situation where she makes money every Tuesday night, and it's donation. You watch the show, you want to give them money. It's so, you feel it in your heart. I mean, it's so good. And she's gradually got her technology better. Like, she listened to people's feedback. She was just using an iPad. Now she has a couple of different, she has a laptop and an iPad. I forget, she uses one to sort of monitor what's going on, people's feedback, and one to film it. But it's very inspiring, and it's weekly. And my wife also, right when everything got shut down, started doing Gaga, which is a kind of...
Yeah, oh my gosh.
She started doing Gaga every morning, and she said similarly that they were making hand money, because people were dialing in, because people were scared and feeling bad, and it was sort of a miracle of interaction. And she'd be up in my office, I'd leave my office, and she'd come up here and dance and push furniture out of the way, and it seemed like, man, really successful, good models.
Exactly.
So in a way, it's an amazing opportunity that if you can connect with social media to a lot of people, I mean, indie movement could have, thousands of people from all over the world, coming to your dance classes.
We'd love to hit 25 pieces.
So would I.
But we're just doing the best we can. And that's what anybody on this call, just do the best you can, and people are being very patient. That's something that has been brought out by this in a lot of ways. Our people are being very patient. So don't be afraid, try if you can, invest. And and we're just gonna keep, obscure artists like me and Sam, we're just gonna keep chipping away at it.
And also be brave. Like, people there are very few people who are going to look at you and say, this person's a jerk, I don't like what they're doing. They're going to be like, wow, this is awesome. I'm like that they're doing something,
Exactly, something. Yes, that's true. And Sam is very famous. I didn't mean to say that you're obscure.
I'm obscure. We're all obscure.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, you guys, for sharing your insights with us. I heard so many great tidbits of advice. I think number one is support each other. If you see your fellow artists out there trying to make something happen, go try and make it happen with them. Show up for them, and they'll show up for you. And then also, I loved the comment about making any kind of, block off seating. Make that visual, put some masking tape on, put arrows on the ground so people know what direction to walk to keep people socially distanced from each other. And then I would also just like to take the time to remind everyone that we are still in stage 4.5. So masks are required. If you go to a performance or venue, or if you're planning one yourself, masks are still required. So make sure you are doing your best to keep up the health of our state. And then limit your social gatherings to 250. That's still the advice from the state of Indiana. I'm going to go ahead and cut us loose 10 minutes early today. What do you say? I think give 10 minutes of our day back, right? But thank you so much, Sam and Lauren, for your great advice. I personally cannot wait to see the collab that's going to happen after this. I think it's going to be great, and I am here for it. Everyone, we will be posting a webinar of this recording to YouTube later today, and you'll get a email with that follow-up coming sometime tomorrow. I hope everyone has a lovely rest of their day and afternoon, and thanks again to our special guests here. Bye, everyone.
Nice to see everybody. Take care.